that I've had back to me, including the last one from Cyclone Gabriel and Sajiri Mataparai's report, is that there's no room for complacency. Being Kiwis, we sort of operate with a glass half full. We can't operate like that anymore, and from my observations, mayors, councillors, councils, chief executives and controllers and the CDM leaders are making early decisions. They're being proactive, they're pre-positioning people, which means that we're having very effective responses to these types of events. So with that, I'll hand over to the Mayor for her to make some comments. Thank you.
Kia ora, Minister, thanks for that. So the situation does seem to be easing here in Waitaki, but I want to first of all acknowledge that there's a number of people in our community that have been inundated by floodwaters, and their homes and properties are certainly well damaged, and we're going to be working with those people to try and help find ways to support them through this. Moving forward, we have still got a number of roads that are closed around the district. We are looking at stepping into the next phase of things, which is the recovery, so really understanding where our issues lie better. We have opened the Network Waitaki Event Centre, so we did have about 20 people that self-evacuated. That event centre is now, everyone has been relocated to different places now, but we will keep that open in the interim, and we'll be keeping working with our community to try and keep them updated on what's happening here on out. Thank you.
Anyone else want to make any comments? No. Any questions?
Mel, it appears the council's been called on the hop here. Is that a fair assessment of what's taking place?
I guess there's a number of things. We were looking at Met Service and the predictions. It was said to us that they didn't expect North Otago to have significant rainfall, so we were operating under that assumption. When we hit to around the 2 o'clock, when we stood our emergency operations centre up, it was really obvious that we were going to have to do a bit more than that and start getting out into our community. I think after we do the efforts around the clean-up and recovery, I think we do need to have a look at our communications and whether or not we got that right.
There was always a high chance of an upgrading to the red, though.
Absolutely, and I think when we don't get the straight, clear messaging that, and I think this is where we're looking at those localised events, the thunderstorms that are happening, which are really unpredictable. So there is a learning from that for us, I think, and we need to keep working with our community to make sure we are better prepared in the future.
And what about those simple things? The sandbags weren't available until the water was already there. There's no good sandbagging once the water's already up to there before.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that we need to look into. There was a number of things that were done in the preparation around cleaning out our drains, our stormwater and our streams and things. So we did have a lot of work that was happening in preparation, but there needs to be something that we look at in the future to make sure that we are better prepared and continue to improve our systems.
Visiting Lee Street, that area, it looks like sewage is mixed in with the water, toilets were backing up, so would that suggest that there's actually been infrastructure failures that have contributed to the level of water in streets? I
think we've had our services that have been absolutely inundated, and we need to continue to work on how we deal with those services.
So you're confident that there were no maintenance or infrastructure issues that could have been addressed ahead of time that have then contributed to this?
I think our systems are certainly not prepared for that level of rain.
Yeah. Was maintenance, that kind of thing, done to a level that you're confident that it didn't contribute to this?
We're going to have a look into that and understand that better, and that'll be part of the next stage of things as we look at what our response was.
What guidance did you take from Dunedin City Council and from the Otago CDM in terms of the way they were preparing?
We've certainly been in touch with them the whole way through, and we were active throughout the night with a number of people. We stood up when we realised that we couldn't certainly wait till dawn to recognise that we had an issue.
I think it highlights the fact that with these weather events, and we're seeing this happen more and more often, is that you're getting very localised and severe thunderstorms that create quite a bit of damage in a very short period of time. The Met Service, I want to acknowledge them because they work 24/7 as hard as they can with the information, the data that they have, to try and provide as best information as they can for decision making. But again, it's with these very localised, intense weather events, it's very difficult for them to pinpoint exactly where those events might hit. I think that the Mayor has been very clear that there's always an opportunity for improvement inside our entire emergency management ecosystem. We've come a long way in a short time, and after action reviews always highlight where improvements can be made. But I just highlight the fact that I was in Dunedin in 2024 where we had some big issues with the flooding of South Dunedin. it was a pretty major event. You know, the pump system there was overwhelmed, and they have been very proactive and done a lot of work. We've had quite a bit of mitigation work done around the management of those river mouths, and what it's meant is that the response has been much better. The preparation has been much better this time round, from my own personal experience and observation, than in 2024.
Mark, speaking about the Met Service, do you think that they have the tools they need to forecast the level of detail that can help?
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yes I do, and I've seen them make big strides, and there's been a lot of movement in terms of the quality of the data and the information that's coming out, the speed in which it's coming out, but like I said, these very localised thunderstorms are very hard to predict exactly where they're going to strike. And that's why, and I've been talking about it a lot, that you know, early decision making, lots of preparation, it really matters and counts in dealing with these events. And you're not going to get 100% right every time. The important thing is having the after-action review and making sure you identify where there can be improvements moving forward.
Do you have concerns that the decisions here in the Waitaki district weren't early enough?
No, I think that they continue to make decisions as the event unfolded. So with the debrief that I've had, speaking with the Mayor, the controllers and first responders, I think that as the event unfolded and it became apparent that they were actually going to get hit with this weather event, they've made good decisions in a timely way. It's always difficult to stand up a response in the early hours of the morning, without a doubt. That comes with challenges. But they declared at 4:30 and acknowledge again our first responders. There's been no loss of life. The important thing, obviously, first and foremost, is protection of life and then protection of property. And so, in my view, they've done a good job.
Speaking about protection of property, there has been property losses around the district, obviously. Can you speak to what might be coming from government in terms of help? Whether it's Mayor?
Yeah, so I've spoken to the Mayor about the fact that I've got the Mayoral Relief Fund, so we can get some money in here quickly to take care of immediate needs, and then obviously government is always on standby, as it is for all of these events, to start working on what we need to do and how we can contribute to recovery.
So there's nothing contributed to the Mayoral Relief Fund yet, but that's a decision?
No, because the request has to come from the Mayor on that, but I've spoken to her and let her know that we're on standby.
Minister, or your worship, what's the process for assessing buildings here and the likes of stickers and might have to be replaced?
Sorry, was that about categorisation of properties?
Yeah. What's the process from here around that?
Yeah, so just evaluation of properties.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we've got the building inspectors from the council out looking at the properties at the moment and assessing the damage and the state of them, and they'll be following the procedures from MB that they need to achieve that.
Any update at this stage on whether any properties have been red stickered, yellow stickered, that kind of thing?
I don't have that information at the moment.
Do you know roughly how many that need to assess?
Currently we've assessed 9 residential properties. There's 6 businesses.
And are you expecting that list will grow?
It is likely that number may increase because where people have evacuated themselves and gone to friends and relatives, we may not be aware of those properties in their entirety.
And with the damage that you're seeing, what kind of damage has happened?
It's floodwater damage.
And how extensive?
Sorry?
How extensive is the damage you're seeing?
In depth, I don't have that information.
Are there particular parts of Oahu that have been affected most with the actual flooding inside?
The actual residential properties have been quite scattered, which is quite interesting. There's been a small cluster of businesses just up the high street, but in terms of the residential ones, it's been quite scattered.
Question for Feds. Can you talk us through the conditions that the firefighters have been encountering when they're going for these jobs this morning, and can you talk us through some of the rescue situations they've had to undertake?
Certainly, obviously, with the wind and the rain, it's obviously difficult conditions. Local crews from the volunteer brigades were out, as long as the specialist water rescue team from Dunedin and Otago were out most of the evening and early morning, and they've done a good job. But certainly, they were experiencing difficult conditions with the cold conditions, wet and wind. Yeah.
And appears there's been several vehicles that were stranded in quite high floodwaters.
Yes, yes,
There have been a few
yes.
lucky escapes as a result.
The team sort of assisted them out of their vehicles. Yeah, and obviously driving through the water can be obviously hazardous, and we'll obviously ask people not to drive through the water. There could be holes underneath and obstacles that are going to create hazards for them.
So police staff over the night were called to a number of events with stranded motorists and also assisted FENS with the work the volunteer firefighters were doing, evacuating people from homes which were being affected. During the day, as the traffic flows increased on the road, there's been increased calls for service related to road closures and roads that have become impassable.
Is there an update actually on roads that would be getting around? How long do you think it would take for openings to...
I would just...
Probably
yeah.
not more police.
Yeah, it's probably a lot. It's probably NZTA thing, but or for local roads, I would just say keep checking regularly on the NZTA website, on your local CDM websites for updates in terms of what roads are open. It's just a great opportunity to remind people stay out of floodwaters. Sadly, many of these that I've been to, we lose people or people are badly injured or require rescuing when they enter floodwaters. So stay out of them; they are dangerous. Check on your neighbours, especially if they're elderly. Use your own danger sense, because right now we're probably looking at going from, in fact we are going from an orange to a red up around Kaikoura and Canterbury. So this weather front is moving up the island. So it's just a good chance to remind everyone to keep yourself updated with information, good proper planning, stay out of floodwaters, and use your own danger sense.
Is there anything else you want to say actually about that North Canterbury area?
No, I'm on my way up there now. So the Blenheim ECC has been stood up. They are being prepared, and I just want to acknowledge both police and FENS. In fact, all our first responders, St John's and Wellington Free as well. They are very good at identifying where we may need people and pre-positioning them. And I think you've heard today around our swiftwater rescue teams that are so critically important to keeping the public safe. They're outstanding in being able to actually anticipate where their people may be needed and actually pre-positioning them. And that's a big part of having a world-class response to these events, is actually lots of prior preparation. And fundamentally, that is how the whole system is responding.
With the state of emergency here, do we know how long that might be in place?
At this stage, it's on until 4 o'clock, and we'll re-evaluate it at that time, and obviously looking at the rain that's due to continue, but probably not at the levels we've seen, so we will look at that again closer to that time.
Has emergency accommodation been a consideration for those people?
So we have moved some people into emergency accommodation. At this stage, we're looking like we are covering what's needed, so we'll keep an eye on that as well.
We've spoken with people this morning who have had wastewater flood back into their homes coming up through the pipes. Those kind of contaminations, those kind of welfare issues that you're seeing and hearing, getting people into emergency accommodation for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you speak to the numbers that are in that boat?
I don't think there's a huge number. I think those 9 properties that have been evacuated when it comes to residential, and we'll see if there's any more to come out of the woodwork, but that's all we're seeing at this stage.
And I don't know if this is one for you, Mel, or some of the feds, but what's happening in the proactive space of getting into those streets, seeing how people's welfare is? When I visited Lee Street, for instance, earlier on, they hadn't seen anyone from the council yet.
So we'll be stepping up more of that. There's certainly been some people out and about and checking on how things are going and the people, but there's always more you can do in that space.
Yeah, thanks guys. Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.